Rain poured like silver needles through the smoky city sky, turning the narrow alleys of the slums into rivers of mud. Amid the chaos, a girl moved quietly, her bare feet splashing through puddles, her old shawl clinging to her skin. Her name was Alina, 18, untouched by the world's corruption, yet crushed beneath its weight. She worked at a small street tea stall, her hands blistered, her spirit barely breathing. That night, fate turned its gaze toward her. A sleek black Rolls-Royce pulled up beside the tea stall, its engines unforeign to these broken streets. The door opened, and out stepped a man whose presence silenced the crowd like a storm's eye. Ethan Voss, youngest billionaire CEO in the city, ruthless in business, feared by rivals and famously cold. His dark suit gleamed under the dim streetlight, his expression unreadable. He wasn't supposed to be here. Alina froze when his eyes met hers. For a brief, disarming second, the world held its breath. He watched her pour tea for a customer, her trembling hands and soft eyes reflecting innocence he hadn't seen in years. There was something painfully pure about her. Something his heart, long buried beneath layers of power and control, wasn't prepared for. "Who is she?" he asked his driver quietly. "Just another slum girl, sir." But to Ethan, she was not just another. He left without saying more, but the image of her haunted him through the night. Her simplicity, her quiet defiance of despair, it stirred something dangerous inside him. By morning, he had already made a call. By evening, the tea stall was gone, and Alina stood on the curb, confused, holding a letter sealed with gold. It was an invitation. When she arrived at the towering glass building that bore the name Voss Enterprises, security guards ushered her inside without a question. She had no idea why she'd been called. In her second-hand dress and torn shoes, she stood out like a whisper in a thunderstorm. Then the elevator doors opened. Ethan stood waiting for her on the top floor, beside windows that stretched into the clouds. "You're trembling," he said softly. "Don't be afraid." Why am I here?" she managed to ask. His eyes softened for a fraction of a second before the mask of authority slipped back in place. "Because I want to change your life." The words didn't make sense, but when he handed her a contract, one that promised education, a home, safety, and the chance to work for him, she couldn't refuse. It was too unreal, too kind, too impossible. Yet beneath that kindness lay something deeper, an obsession he couldn't name. He wanted to shape her, to lift her from the dust and see what she could become. He didn't just want to rescue her. He wanted to claim her. Days turned to weeks. Alina's transformation began slowly. New clothes, proper meals, lessons in speech, etiquette, and art. Every day, Ethan watched her evolve, his cold heart thawing with every glance, every innocent question she asked. She was no longer the trembling girl from the slum. She was beginning to glow, soft, graceful, yet unaware of her own beauty. But the more she changed, the more the world noticed. Rumors spread in the media. Voss's mysterious protégé. Jealous voices whispered that she was his new obsession, his secret mistress. Alina tried to ignore them, but one night, as the city lights burned below, she confronted him. "Why me, Ethan?" she asked, her voice trembling but strong. "Why bring me here? Why change my life?" He looked at her, the man who had never answered anyone, and for the first time, his voice broke. "Because I saw in you everything I'd lost in myself." The silence that followed was charged, fragile. He stepped closer, his hand brushing against her cheek, not out of ownership but reverence. "You remind me what it means to be human." Her heart raced, but she couldn't tell if it was fear or something else. Outside, thunder rumbled again, echoing the night they first met. And just when she thought she understood the man before her, his pain, his loneliness, the door burst open. A woman in red walked in, heels clicking like fire across marble floors. Her eyes burned with fury. "So this is a girl you replaced me with," she said coldly. Alina froze. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Leave, Clara," he warned, his voice sharp as glass. But Clara smirked. "Oh, no, darling. The world deserves to know how their perfect CEO falls for a slum girl." Before Alina could move, cameras flashed outside the glass walls. Paparazzi already circling like vultures. Her world, one small and hidden, had just collided with his empire. And in that moment, Alina realized her transformation was far from over, because now the entire city would see what she was becoming. Ethan moved swiftly, pulling Alina behind him as if shielding her from a storm only he could see. The flashes outside grew brighter, white light slicing through the tinted glass. Clara's laugh echoed through the room, low, poisonous, triumphant. "Did you really think you could hide this, Ethan?" she taunted, crossing her arms. "A girl from the gutter? You've fallen low, even for a man like you." Alina felt the weight of 1,000 invisible eyes pressing against her chest. The whispers, the rumors, the disbelief, it all felt unreal. Just days ago, she was invisible. Now she was being torn apart by strangers who didn't even know her name. Ethan's voice cut through the noise like steel. "Security. Remove her." 2 guards stepped in, but Clara didn't move. She tossed her hair back and smiled venomously. "Oh, don't bother. The story's already out. The media loves a scandal. The billionaire and the slum girl. You'll be the headline by morning." Her heels clicked as she turned and strode out, leaving behind a silence so sharp it hummed. Alina looked at Ethan, her throat tight. "Is it true?" she whispered. "They'll write about me?" He sighed, his hand raking through his hair. "They already are, but I'll handle it." "How?" Her voice cracked. "They'll never see me as anything but—" She couldn't finish. The word slum felt like a brand on her skin. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Let them talk. You owe them nothing. You are not defined by where you came from." His words were meant to comfort her, but they only made the ache in her chest deepen. "Maybe you can say that," she said softly, "but people like me, we don't get to start over. No matter what I wear, they'll always see the dirt beneath my skin." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Then I'll make them see differently." And with that, he left the room. That night, Alina couldn't sleep. The city lights painted golden streaks across the floor of her new apartment, an apartment so beautiful it felt like another world. She touched the silk sheets, the glass window, the polished marble, but everything felt heavy. None of it belonged to her. She opened her phone, something Ethan had given her a week ago, and scrolled through the news. Every headline screamed his name beside hers. Asterisk mystery girl from slums living with CEO. Asterisk, Ethan Voss's secret project or new lover? Asterisk, the comments below were worse. Some mocked her. Others painted her as a gold digger, a manipulator, a social climber. Her vision blurred as tears welled up. She had never wanted any of this. But before she could turn the phone off, a new message appeared, an unknown number. "You think he saved you? He's just using you to fix his image. Ask him about the girl before you." Her heart skipped. She stared at the words until they blurred into shadows. The girl before me. The next morning, she found Ethan in his private office, standing by the window, his reflection sharp and lonely in the glass. He looked tired, as if he hadn't slept either. "I saw the news," he said before she could speak. "I'm taking care of it. You'll be protected." Alina hesitated, her voice small but steady. "Who was the girl before me?" Ethan froze. Slowly, he turned, his expression unreadable. "Where did you hear that?" "It doesn't matter," she said. "Is it true?" He walked closer, his gaze darkening. "Yes," he admitted finally. "Her name was Alara. She was someone I tried to help." "Tried," Alina repeated. "She wanted more than I could give." His tone was flat, but something flickered in his eyes. Regret, pain, maybe both. "When I pulled her out of poverty, I thought I was saving her. But the world tore her apart instead. She couldn't take it. She left." Alina's breath caught. "Left?" He looked away. "She's gone, Alina." "Gone." The word hung in the air like smoke. "So that's what this is," she whispered. "I'm just another project. Another girl you want to fix." Ethan's eyes snapped to hers, sharp and wounded. "Don't you ever say that. You're not a project. You're—" He stopped himself, his voice faltering. "You're different." But she shook her head, stepping back. "You don't even see me. You see what you want me to be." He started toward her, but she turned and walked out before he could answer. That evening, the rain returned. The city shimmered under the downpour, headlights cutting through the mist like blades. Alina wandered the streets aimlessly, her coat soaked, her thoughts louder than the thunder. For the first time since meeting Ethan, she felt the full weight of what she left behind. The slum, her friends, the small joys of a hard but honest life. She stopped by a bakery window, watching families laugh inside, the warmth spilling out like light. A memory rose unbidden. Her mother's voice, soft and tired. Asterisk, the world will try to tell you who you are. Alina, don't let it. Asterisk, tears burned her eyes. She turned to leave and froze. Across the street, under a black umbrella, Ethan stood watching her. His suit was drenched, his eyes fixed on her with something between fear and relief. "Why did you follow me?" she asked when he reached her. "Because I can't lose you like I lost her," he said simply. The honesty in his voice made her chest tighten. "I don't belong in your world, Ethan," she said. "I never did." He reached out, his hand trembling slightly as he brushed a strand of wet hair from her face. "Maybe not, but I don't belong in mine either, not without you." She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust the warmth in his eyes, the sincerity in his voice. But deep down, a voice whispered, "Asterisk power always comes with a price." Asterisk. She stepped back, her heart at war with itself. "I need time," she murmured, "to figure out who I am, not who you want me to be." He nodded slowly, pain flickering across his face. "Then take it, but I'll be here, no matter how far you go." She turned away before her resolve could break, walking into the rain until the sound of his footsteps faded behind her. The next few weeks were quiet. Alina disappeared from the media's radar, staying in a small apartment she rented under a different name. She found work teaching children in a community center, her days filled with laughter, simplicity, and the comfort of being unseen. But at night, she'd catch glimpses of Ethan on TV, calm, controlled, but with eyes that seemed darker now, lonelier. Rumors swirled of a hostile takeover in his company, of enemies circling, of betrayals within his own board. She tried to push the thoughts away, but one evening, while closing up the classroom, she found a black car waiting outside. A familiar driver stepped out. "Miss Alina, Mr. Voss sent me. He needs your help." Her heart lurched. "What happened?" The man's face was grim. "He's in trouble, and he said only you could reach him before it's too late." She didn't ask more. She got in the car. As the city lights blurred past, her mind raced. The man she tried to walk away from was calling her back. Not as a savior, not as a victim, but as something deeper, something that terrified her. The car stopped in front of the Voss Tower. It looked darker than before, the windows reflecting lightning. Inside, chaos buzzed. Guards rushing, assistants whispering, the air thick with tension. Alina moved through the hall, her heartbeat loud in her ears. When she reached the top floor, Ethan was there, alone, his suit undone, his tie loose, his eyes hollow. He turned when he heard her. "You came," he said quietly. "What happened?" she asked. He smiled faintly, a shadow of his usual control. "They betrayed me, Alina, the board, the company I built. They're taking it from me." She stepped closer, instinctively reaching for his hand. "Then fight back." He looked at her with something like wonder. "You still believe I can?" "I believe you're not as cold as you pretend to be," she said softly. For a long moment, he just stared at her, rain pounding against the glass, city lights flickering below. Then, slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the same golden letter that had once changed her life. "This time," he said, pressing it into her hand, "it's your turn to save me." And as thunder rolled across the sky, Alina realized her story with Ethan was far from finished, because the girl he once claimed was no longer the one standing before him now. She was something more, someone capable of claiming him back. The city burned gold beneath the storm clouds as Alina stood beside Ethan in his towering glass office, the skyline stretching endlessly below. The rain had stopped, but the air still trembled with electricity, like the world was holding its breath. The golden letter he'd given her lay open on the desk, its contents enough to shatter and save him all at once. Ethan Voss, the untouchable billionaire, the man who had built an empire from ashes, was about to lose everything. And yet, for the first time, he didn't look afraid. "I built this world," he said quietly, his gaze fixed on the city. "Brick by brick, deal by deal, I thought control was power. But the moment I let you in, I realized power means nothing without someone to share it with." Alina watched him, her heart heavy and alive all at once. There was something raw about him now, something human. The man who once stood above everyone now stood vulnerable before her, stripped of every mask. "Then don't let them take it," she said. "Not your company, not your life. You fought for everyone else, now fight for yourself." He turned to her, a faint, weary smile curving his lips. "I can fight the world, Alina. I just can't fight what I become." She stepped closer, her voice trembling but sure. "Then let me remind you who you were." Her words broke through him like light through glass. For a long moment, they stood in silence, eyes locked, two souls that had been through fire, now finding each other in the smoke. The door burst open suddenly. One of Ethan's assistants, pale and breathless. "Sir, the board has arrived. They're demanding your resignation immediately." Ethan straightened, his composure returning like armor sliding into place. "Then let them in." Alina's hand brushed his arm. "Wait." She glanced at the letter again, the document that could shift everything. It was a partnership agreement, one that would legally transfer a part of the company's assets to her name. It was reckless. It was bold. But it was also his way of giving her power, of showing he trusted her completely. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "If you sign this, you're giving me everything they want." "I'm giving you what I should have given you from the beginning," he said softly. "A choice." The doors opened. A group of sharply dressed men and women swept into the room. The board of Voss Enterprises. Faces that once admired him now looked at him with cold calculation. "Ethan," one of them said sharply, "the charade ends tonight. The company needs stability. Your recent scandals, your personal distractions," his eyes flicked toward Alina, "have damaged our reputation beyond repair." Ethan's expression remained calm. "My distractions built this company," he said evenly, "and they're the only reason it still has a soul." A murmur spread through the group. One of the directors stepped forward, sneering. "You think she can save you? A slum girl you pulled off the street." Alina's chest tightened, but before she could speak, Ethan's voice cut through the tension. "That slum girl has more courage than every one of you combined. While you sit here fighting over profits, she's the only one who reminded me why I started all this, to build something that changes lives." His words silenced the room. He picked up the pen and signed the letter, sliding it across the table toward them. "Here's my answer. Effective immediately, Alina Raines is my partner in Voss Enterprises. Every decision goes through her. If you want the company, you'll have to go through her first." Gasps rippled through the boardroom. Ethan looked at Alina then, not as a savior, not as a possession, but as an equal. "You're the one who can fix what I broke," he whispered. Her hands trembled as she took the document. The men and women before her, people who had mocked her, dismissed her, now stared at her in disbelief. She met their gaze steadily, her voice steady as steel. "This company was built on ambition," she said. "But ambition without heart is just greed. Ethan may have lost his way, but he's the reason you all stand here today. And I'll make sure his vision doesn't die, because it deserves better than vultures." The board members exchanged uncertain looks. Some left in silence. Others lingered, unwilling to admit defeat. But as they disappeared, Alina felt the air shift. The storm had finally broken. Ethan exhaled slowly, his shoulders relaxing. "You didn't just save me," he said. "You saved everything." Alina smiled faintly. "No, you saved yourself. I just reminded you how." He laughed softly, something he hadn't done in months. The sound was low, unguarded, real. He stepped closer, reaching out to brush a strand of hair from her face. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me, Alina?" She looked up, eyes shimmering. "Maybe I've turned you into a man again." He smiled, a real, quiet smile that spoke more than any words. And as the thunder faded, the city below seemed to glow brighter, as if it, too, was exhaling after the storm. Days passed. The news of the CEO and the slum girl turned from scandal to legend. The narrative shifted. What was once ridicule became fascination, admiration. Headlines changed from billionaire's obsession to asterisk the girl who saved an empire. Asterisk. But Alina didn't care for fame. She spent her days rebuilding the company's charity foundation, focusing on education and healthcare in the very slum she came from. She refused bodyguards, preferred to walk those old streets alone, remembering where it all began. Children would wave when they saw her, calling her asterisk the girl from the stories. Asterisk. Sometimes, when the nights were quiet, Ethan would join her there, dressed simply, walking beside her unnoticed. They didn't need words. Their silence was its own language, the kind that spoke of battles fought and hearts remade. One evening, as they stood overlooking the river that bordered her old neighborhood, the city lights reflecting like scattered stars, Ethan took her hand. "You know," he said quietly, "the day I saw you for the first time, I thought I was rescuing you." She turned to him, a soft smile curving her lips. "And now," he looked out at the horizon, where the slums met the skyline, poverty and power, both part of the same city, the same story. "Now I know," he said, "you were rescuing me." A breeze swept through, carrying the faint scent of rain. Alina rested her head against his shoulder, the world glowing in shades of gold and silver around them. "I used to dream of escaping this place," she murmured. "Now I just want to change it." "And you will," he said, "because everything you touch becomes different." She laughed softly. "Even you?" He smiled. "Especially me." The city hummed beneath them, alive, endless, forgiving. And in that moment, it no longer mattered who they were or where they came from. The billionaire and the girl from the slum were just two people who had found something greater than wealth or power: redemption, love, and the courage to begin again. The rain began to fall once more, light and gentle this time, washing away everything that had once held him captive. Ethan turned toward her, his hand still holding hers, their eyes locking in the dim glow of the streetlights. No promises, no grand declarations, just quiet understanding, because some stories didn't need a perfect ending. They just needed truth, and theirs, forged in fire and rain, would live on, not in boardrooms or newspapers, but in the whispers of the city that had seen them both rise, fall, and rise again. As lightning flashed far above the skyline, Alina smiled. The girl who once poured tea for strangers now stood beside a man who had built empires, and together they were building something greater. Not a fairy tale, not a fantasy, a legacy. And in that quiet, magnificent moment, as the storm gave way to dawn, the slum girl and the broken sill finally found what they had both been searching for all along: home.